Now, God, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, wow, I'm going to be talking to Jeff Pilson. Like, I have so many things I got to ask, you know what I mean? But obviously, I do want to talk about the End Machine. The new album, The Quantum Phase. Jeff, did you produce this album?
I did.
Awesome. I mean, I know you did that before. I wanted to clarify that. You've known George for such a long time now, but how do you find, producing George, even that relationship has been there for so long?
I mean, it's just as natural as could possibly be. I mean, he and I have a really solid, long-term, deep chemistry together. So, yeah, I mean, it's very enjoyable and it flows. So it's for producing George. It consists of getting him comfortable, which starts with his sound. So if you get him a great sound where he's inspired, he's going to come up with great stuff. He's just going to come up with great, and sometimes it takes longer for us to hit a stride, but sometimes it happens right away. I mean, it's always different. Again, with him, getting him in the zone is the objective. And then once he's in the zone, it kind of happens on its own. It's pretty amazing.
I can certainly imagine so. And of course, there have been a few changes already with the group. They changed from Robert Mason. You got Girish Pradman in there now. What happened there exactly?
Well, the label came to us and Serafino in particular, the president of the label, yeah. And he said, "We want you to check this guy out. We just think that this could maybe be bring the energy level up or bring the End Machine up a notch." And we listened and we said, "Wow, this guy's really great." Then we worked. We did some writing together, and his writing was great. So we were sold, and we agreed. Yeah, this could really help bring us up a notch, and indeed it did. I mean, his writing throughout the record was amazing. Collaborating with him was fabulous, and that's a difficult thing to do, remotely. But because he was in India, but man, it came through. He had to do rewrites on several songs, but he came through. I mean, he's an amazing singer and an amazing writer, and he happens to be a great guy. So
that's a win.
It was a great decision. It was a good decision.
And so was everything okay with Robert Mason? It was just like, hey, it's not working out kind of
Robert
thing?
Didn't do anything wrong, and I want to always put that out there. Robert did nothing wrong. It's not about Robert. It was just a suggestion that we thought could work, and I believe it did.
Certainly so. Also, another change that a lot of people obviously would bring up with Wild Mick Brown. Mick's not really playing behind the drums anymore. What happened with Mick exactly?
He just wants to retire. I mean, he physically was really feeling the drum thing, and he had physical issues. I understand that. I've had physical issues myself. I had back surgery in November. Sure. So he retired, and he also kind of knew that his brother was right there. His brother has been in Tesla a while now. Yeah. His brother's an amazing drummer. He can sing a lot like Mick, and Mick is a pretty damn amazing singer. He's a very underrated singer.
He's been phenomenal.
As he was an underrated drummer. I think Mick's a fabulous drummer. It feels, the feel that George and Mick and I had was really magical, and it sustained us for many years. But the amazing thing is with Steve, it feels the same way. So, it's pretty incredible how much it feels like playing with Mick. And he sings a lot like Mick. So, Steve is just fabulous, and he is the guy that there's only one guy that can replace Wild Mick, and it's Steve Brown.
What exactly did you guys set out to do with this project? Obviously, you're going to get, people who are going to bring up Dokken, because it essentially was 3/4 Dokken initially. Now it's got half of Dokken in there. What did you really want to set out to do with this band?
Well, I think, Serafino was the one that suggested this band. Okay. Basically, he said, could you, Mick and George, this is what his original concept was, the 3/4 of the Dokken, could you find a singer and be like a modern day Dokken with a great singer? Right. And yeah, that was somewhat of the objective. I think when we got together, we also had, the chemistry became a little something different from that. Now with Girish, because Girish really comes from that music, that was where he comes from. It was very natural for him to write what George and I write naturally, and it just fell into place so naturally that I don't take offense if people say, "Wow, this is like a modern day Dokken with an amazing vocalist. If people say that, I'm not upset by that, because I wouldn't say that's solely the objective, but if that's the end result, cool.
Well, yeah, because didn't it initially start out because there was an attempted Dokken reunion which somewhat splintered, and then this thing sort of came out of it? Is that how it worked initially?
Well, it wasn't. I mean, the Dokken reunion was never intended to be more than what it was. But I think maybe Serafino thought afterwards, well, God, people are still hungering for Dokken. But, there was a lot of complaints about how Don's been singing the last several years. So the thought was, wow, if we put a singer who can really still hit the notes, that would be really cool. So I think that was some of the thinking involved. It wasn't necessarily that it splintered out, but kind of got people thinking.
Now, bringing up, of course, Dokken, have you heard the new Dokken album at all? Have you checked it out?
I've only heard the one song with the video. Yeah. But hey, Don's out there promoting it, and I wish him the best.
Now, have you spoken with Don recently? Has there been communication there still?
Recently, no.
No.
I think the last thing was by email or text, several months ago. I remember texting him on his birthday, because but that was June. So I probably texted. June is probably the last time I had text conversation with him.
Now, Don has been quite vocal recently when it comes to Dokken and speaking about some of the past members. How do you and George take that kind of stuff that he says about, doing the 80%, the majority of the writing of the early Dokken stuff and the drug abuse stories? Like, how do you take that when you hear that?
Well, sort of kind of rolls off my back because I'm used to it. But,
yeah.
Listen, is it offensive on certain levels? Absolutely. Is it bullshit? Absolutely. Don was an important writer in the band, no question. Absolutely. Very, very important writer in the band. But 80%, you've got to be kidding me. Right. And I don't even think other people even believe that anymore. I don't think many people do. I think it's sad that he says that stuff. What goes through my mind is, I wonder if he's thinking that because that was kind of how Dokken promoted ourselves in the 80s, and it kind of worked. It was kind of our promotional hook. Is he trying to go back to that? I kind of wonder, trying to bring up controversy and bring up the bad blood because it sort of got people's attention. And hey, we're talking about it now. So
certainly, yeah.
Maybe he's thinking like that. I don't know. I know but it also kind of comes across like sour grapes, and it's like, wow, dude, aren't you grateful for the career we had? You sound like you're upset about it, and like, wow, where does that come from? So, but Don's never been known for being 100% truthful,
right? Right.
to put it mildly. So our reaction is basically one of, like I say. You get a little frustrated, you get a little angry, but mostly I get sad. At the end of the day, I just kind of get sad, and it's like, oh, what a horrible way to, is this how you want this thing to fade away?
Yeah.
But again, he's promoting a new record. Maybe he thinks it helps. Whatever. I don't think about it all that much, to be perfectly honest.
When the reunion of the classic lineup was essentially when it was first announced, there was a lot of people who went crazy for that. When you guys did the tour over in Japan, I know you guys got a lot of money for that. That's why Dokken essentially came back together. That's what Don says, at least. Did you think it could have lasted longer? And are you upset that it was only the one gig that you did in the US with that lineup?
Not really. That's what it was. It was only intended ever to be that, the one gig as a warm up and then go to Japan.
Right.
That really was the plan. And no, I really didn't necessarily expect it to continue or even particularly desire to continue. And frankly, after the tour, I was glad it didn't continue because I don't think we were great. Really? And, Don has apologized about his singing on that tour and his performing. Which was disappointing, no question, by his own admission. So I just got to say, no, I didn't. I wasn't at all disappointed. I mean, I was more disappointed at how we came across. The good thing is I thought we got along great, and there was a lot of laughs, which is why it kind of shocks me that he wants to bring up all this negativity that, which a lot of it is bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, there's truth, there's elements of truth in what he says, and then there's bullshit, and it's like it's him doing his thing. And that disappoints me, but it's disappointing, especially in light of how well we got along. And then when we did write the new song for the new record in 2016, the chemistry was right there. So, which he seems to ignore. He seems to act like there isn't that. And okay, right. I mean, I at this point, I don't know how many people believe him. It's disappointing if they do, but it's not a big deal. And I think he comes across like sour grapes and bitter, and I don't think that ever works.
No. Well, I know that for a while there, I think hopes were sort of kept up with, with Lynch Mob going on the road with Dokken, and then George coming out and performing with Don for a few songs. So I think that a lot of people sort of thought, well, that spark of hope had still been there for maybe more shows of that. But at this point, you're saying that it's behind you now. Time to move forward. Is that right?
Well, I mean, I never closed the door on any stuff about a reunion, but I don't have much. I have zero expectation, and if it didn't ever happen, I would not be at all disappointed. There is that part of me that as an artistic statement, I think Dokken has one more record in us that I think we could do. That's great before we all go up into the sky and pass to do our thing, go on to the next phase of the journey, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I think 2016 proved that we had the chemistry, I think, to still do it if need be. But again, I just wouldn't be disappointed at all. So yeah, I mean, I guess I'm neutral. I guess that's the word, neutral.
Just looking at your career, Jeff, you've worked with so many iconic people. I do got to bring up Dio. Your time that you did spend with Dio there. How was it working with Ronnie? How was that experience for you?
It was absolutely incredible. I mean, Ronnie was, but should always be considered, one of the greatest singers in heavy metal ever.
Easily, yeah.
And there's a reason for that, because he was a hardworking, genuine artist musician who not only had vocal talent but musical talent, lyrical talent, melodic talent, and working with him was incredible. I mean, in that band, it wasn't a democracy, but it sure felt like one in many ways. I mean, which I think was his gift of bringing the band in and making it feel inclusive. Mm-hmm. Because when we worked together, we were very collaborative, and he did listen to ideas. And he, and he actually, on the second record that I did with them, he actually did a song that I wrote the lyrics and melody, which was the first time that ever happened on a Dio record. And that was his being cool that allowed that to happen. And people don't understand enough of that side of Ronnie, how cool he could be. And he was a dear friend. I really miss him as a friend, even more than as an artist, because I mean, as an artist, I loved working with him, but I worked with him over a long period of time. But as a friend, he was just a really important friend. He really was. I mean, he was really good to me through some tough times in my life, and he was there for me. And I'll never, ever, ever forget that. And I miss him dearly. Working with him, like I say, I mean, when we had that band with me, Vinny, Scott Warren, and Tracy G, it was just this powerful unit. And I would tell people, go to see, there was a recording that we did, a video that we filmed of us live at the Hammersmith Odeon in London in 1993. And I saw some of it recently, and I was blown away. I forgot how powerful we were. So check that video out, man. What a frigging powerful live band. And it was a little different than standard Dio. So, a
Yeah.
lot of fans didn't warm to it at first, but they've come around over the years and they really appreciate it. And it is just an incredible live performance. It's us in 93. Check it out.
Do you still keep in contact with Wendy Dio at all?
Oh, yeah.
Do you?
She's a dear friend. Absolutely.
Awesome. Now, also, something that was sort of brought up with some other people who have played with Ronnie, and I got to ask you as well. Do you know, are there any sort of leftovers that are hidden somewhere on a shelf somewhere that may have not been released, that may someday see the light of day?
There are. I'm very well aware that there are. So we're working on, there are people working on this. I'm not personally working on it myself, but Win Davis, who was Ronnie's engineer for the last many years of his life, and a dear friend of mine and somebody that I work with a lot, because he also does all the Foreigner stuff. Win Davis is working on some of it, and we're trying to use technology to do what we can. But yes, there is some stuff, and I think it will eventually see the light of day. When it just, we want to be very careful to make sure that it comes out right, because on things that were totally unfinished, but there's a Ronnie vocal there, we'll have to carefully work that out, make that happen. But I'm hoping I get to be involved in that, to be perfectly honest with you. And we'll see. But yes, there is stuff out there, and I know that with Win doing it, it's going to be great.
That's exciting. I can't wait to hear some of this stuff, man. That's going to be great.
Yeah.
Obviously, I do want to talk about Foreigner as well, man. You've been doing some fantastic work there as well. I was actually, I was kind of, I wouldn't say shocked, but I was like, wow, put it back a little bit with Mick Jones recently, a few days ago, coming out and saying about his struggles with Parkinson's. Now, is that something that you knew about, or did you just find out yourself?
I've known about it for years, but what's really funny is I actually suspected it before he even got diagnosed.
Oh, really? Why's that?
And I forget if I spoke with him. I don't think I actually spoke with him directly about that when I suspected it. But I remember speaking with management and saying, has anyone checked to see if he has Parkinson's? And they were like, yeah, they've talked about that, that's been dealt with or whatever. I never got the clear answer that, I know that they didn't have the diagnosis, but when the diagnosis happened, I wasn't surprised. My stepdad had Parkinson's, so I was very familiar with it in general. Sure. And so I would say, no, I wasn't. I wasn't shocked by it. I'm really glad he's made the announcement, because now people understand why he hasn't been able to do as many live shows as he would have liked. But Mick is doing great. And I think his announcing it is actually going to help other people, because I'm hoping we can call attention to Parkinson's, get a little money to Parkinson's research, because they can find a cure for this, I believe. I really do. I think they're getting closer every day. So let's hope this helps.
Seriously, yeah, that'd be great. Mick Jones is, just iconic, and really hoping the best for him. Has there been any discussions with Lou Gramm at all about maybe doing more stuff with him moving forward?
I don't believe so. Last I heard, nothing. I think the door is open for him to join us at any time he would want. But I haven't heard of anything coming up. But like I say, the door is open.
Sure, certainly. We had mentioned, of course, that Mick hasn't been able to be on the road as much or do as much live performing because of his condition and because of his health. Do you find that you face criticism for Foreigner not technically having any original members left? Do you guys face that much?
I find that we face very, very little of that. My God, we did an entire tour last year. Mick didn't join us once, and the summer tour was a massive success. Right. So people are having fun and they're digging the shows, and we're delivering. I know that. I know how strong we are, and I know that Mick endorses what we do 1,000%. Obviously, mm-hmm. And we've worked very hard to sustain his vision. I think that's the only reason Mick would even vaguely trust us to do this, is because he knows how much we believe in his vision and want to ensure that it happens. And we do. I think we honestly do. I really believe that we deliver very, very strongly, and I know that Mick feels that way. So what we're giving the public, we're giving a we're giving them a real foreigner. There doesn't happen to be any original members out there, but we're giving them foreigner. And I've been in the band 20 years now, Kelly 19. So it's like, we are foreigner now.
Yeah.
It is the absolutely Mick Jones endorsed foreigner. So it just happens to be circumstance that there's no original members, but we're delivering. So the criticism, sure, I see some of it, but it's really limited considering we're selling out, 15,000 seaters. So,
right.
So obviously the criticism is very minor. And I'm kind of surprised at how little there is, considering there's no original members most of the time. But I'm grateful for it, and I believe it's because we deliver.
Fantastic. What's the status of Revolution Saints?
Well, new record was out February 9th. We're getting phenomenal reaction. We're charting on the Billboard charts. I mean, pretty much an incredible thing. So, hey, I gotta say, couldn't be in a better spot with that. We're talking about the next record, maybe getting together as a band and doing some writing together, which I think would be great. Love to see that happen. So, Revolution Saints is going strong.
Beautiful. And I did want to ask this question before I let you go as well. I've always wanted to ask you this. How did you get involved with 2001's Rockstar movie? And what was that experience like for you?
Well, I was originally brought in. So the man producing the music was Tom Werman, who also produced Dokkens' Tooth and Nail record. And Tom and I really got along well. We really did. We had a great rapport during the making of the Tooth and Nail record. So he called me up and asked me if I wanted to play bass on the sessions, because, in a movie, a lot of times they do the music first, or at least certainly in this case they did, because it was so music based. Yeah. So I was brought in originally to play bass on the record. And so we started setting up to play, Zach and myself and Jason Bonham and Nick, who was Zach's rhythm guitar player at the time. We got up and started playing live. And Mike would come in and do some of the vocals, to check out the songs. And kind of instantaneously, I kind of by default became the musical director for the rehearsals. Nobody ever appointed me as that until later officially, but it just kind of worked out that way. And the director started coming down to the rehearsals. And after a few days, he came up to me and he said, "Man, I am really digging the vibe that you guys have. You guys feel like a band. There's a chemistry here." Mm-hmm. And he goes, "And you seem to be a very important part of it. So, and this is what I want to achieve in the movie. So how would you feel about being in the movie?" I said, "Well, let me think about it." Yes.
Yeah, sure.
One of those kind of deals. I did have to audition. I had to do a screen test, put it that way, which I love. I love the fact that I had to do that. But so there was some acting involved, limited, but that's how I got in the movie. And I was like, wow, that's great. I love it.
Has there ever been talk of a Steel Dragon reunion of any sort?
Oh, there were years ago. I haven't heard any talk in a while. That too would be difficult to pull off. And, I don't think the movie was, it's kind of become a bit of a cult classic, but I don't think it was big enough where that would really constitute a reunion, because, again, that would be difficult to put together.
Yeah.
Hey, if it ever happened, wouldn't that be fun?
It would be.